Hey there, beautiful souls, and welcome to Pain to Power. I'm your host, Jill Ripley. Today, we're diving into something that completely changed how you understand your emotions, your health, and the choices you make every day. The fact that you don't just have a brain in your head, you also have neural networks in your heart and in your gut, and they are constantly shaping how you feel, what you crave, and how you experience the world. This episode is about how these systems communicate, how food and life experiences influence them, and how you can use this understanding to consciously shape your own experiences instead of feeling controlled by it. Today's episode is one I've been really looking forward to sharing because it brings together science, lived experience, and deep self awareness in a way that can genuinely change how you move through your life. Most of us were taught directly or indirectly that healing happens in the mind, that if we could just think differently, reframe harder, stay positive, or talk it out enough, things would eventually fall into place. And while the mind is powerful, it's only part of the story. What we're going to explore today is this: you don't just have a brain in your head, you also have neural networks in your heart and in your gut. And these are constantly shaping your emotions, your reactions, your cravings, your sense of safety, and even the choices you make in your relationships and daily life. This isn't a metaphor. This isn't spiritual poetry. This is biology. And once you understand how these systems work together, you can stop fighting yourself and start working with your body in a way that feels supportive, grounded, and empowering. Let's start by clearing something up. Neurons are nervous system cells. Most people associate them with the brain, and that makes sense because the brain holds billions of them. But neurons exist throughout the nervous system, and that includes the heart and the gut. Your gut actually contains hundreds of millions of neurons. It's called the enteric nervous system, and it can function independently of the brain. That's why digestion continues even when you're asleep or distracted. It's also why stress, fear, or unresolved trauma often shows up as stomach issues, nausea, IBS, or changes in appetite. Your heart also contains its own network of specialized neurons. They don't think in words, but they process information related to emotional meaning, feelings, connection, and coherence or unity. And here's something that surprises a lot of people: the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. All three, brain, heart, and gut, are in constant conversation, primarily through the vagus nerve and chemical messengers like neurotransmitters and hormones. So when people say things like, I had a gut feeling, or my heart wasn't in it, or I knew in my bones, they're not being dramatic. They're describing real physiological communication. Now, here's where this becomes deeply relevant to healing. Each of these systems has its own role to play. The brain is about logic, planning, memory, and interpretation. The heart is about emotional meaning, connection, empathy, and resonance. And the gut is about instinct, safety, survival, and trust. When you've lived through trauma, chronic stress, neglect, or emotional wounds, these systems don't shut down, they adapt. And adaptation is not the same thing as dysfunction. A hypervigilant gut isn't broken, it's learned to scan for danger. A guarded heart isn't cold, it's learned to protect itself. An overthinking brain isn't weak, it learned to anticipate and control. The problem arises when those survival adaptations keep running long after the danger has passed. This is why so many people feel stuck. They intellectually understand that they're safe now, but their body hasn't caught up. And you cannot logic your way out of a nervous system that learned through experience. This is also why forcing positive thinking often backfires. When the brain tells you everything is fine, but the gut feels tight and the heart feels heavy, your system experiences conflict, not reassurance. Healing happens when the conversation between these three centers becomes aligned again. Let's talk about how daily life impacts that conversation. What you eat is not just fuel, it's information. Have you ever had a moment when anxiety seemed to come out of nowhere? Unexplained brain fog, irritability, low mood, or cravings that just don't make sense? Often, what feels like a mental or emotional issue is actually a physiological signal coming from the gut. When the gut is inflamed, imbalanced, or overwhelmed, it communicates that distress to the brain through the nervous system and chemical messengers. The brain then tries to make meaning of the signal, often interpreting it as worry, unease, or a sense that something's wrong, even when nothing obvious is happening in your external world. This is why so many people try to think their way out of anxiety and end up feeling frustrated. The message didn't originate in the mind, so the solution doesn't live there either. This isn't about perfection or restriction. It's about awareness. When you notice unexplained feelings, anxiety that seems to come out of nowhere, sudden irritability, heaviness, or brain fog, it can be helpful to make a simple mental note of what you've eaten earlier that day or even the day before. You're not looking for a culprit or something to eliminate, just patterns. The body often processes food on a delay, and what shows up emotionally later may have started physiologically hours earlier. Instead of asking, is this food good or bad? Try asking, how do I feel an hour or two after I eat this? Not just physically, but emotionally. Do you feel calm or wired? Heavy or anxious? Energized or grounded? Your body gives feedback constantly. Most of us were just never taught to listen. Another thing to keep in mind is that experiences matter just as much as food. The nervous system is shaped by repetition. If you grew up in an environment where you had to stay alert, manage other people's emotions, or suppress your own needs, your gut likely learned that safety requires vigilance. If love felt conditional, your heart may associate closeness with risk. If you were rewarded for achievement but not authenticity, your brain may equate worth with productivity. These patterns don't live only in memory, they live in physiology, in your body. And here's the empowering part: physiology can change. Neuroplasticity means the nervous system can rewire, but it does so through experience, not explanation. Safety must be felt, not just understood. This is where intentional practices come in. One of the simplest and most effective tools is regulating the breath through the heart. When you slow your breathing and lengthen your exhale, you send a signal to the vagus nerve that you're not in danger. When you place your attention on the heart and bring to mind something or someone you appreciate, even briefly, the heart rhythm becomes more coherent. That coherence sends a calming signal to the brain and the gut. This isn't visualization fluff, it's measurable physiology. Something I've started doing myself in meditation is focusing my in breath into my heart space, imagining a bright emerald green love energy. On the exhale, I send that love to my brain and to my gut. Then I imagine my brain and gut sending love back into my heart and out into the world. This is a powerful meditation because it nourishes your entire system and allows coherence to ripple outward. Another powerful practice is what I call a three-center check-in. When you're facing a decision, pause and ask three questions. What does my mind think? What does my heart feel? What does my gut sense about safety or alignment? You're not looking for perfection or certainty, you're looking for patterns. If your brain says yes, but your gut is tight and your heart feels heavy, that's information. If your heart is excited and your gut is settled, but your brain is spiraling in fear, that's also information. Wisdom emerges when you listen to all three instead of letting one override the others. I also encourage gentle experiments rather than drastic changes. Just for 1 week, simply observe. Notice what you eat and how you feel afterwards. Notice how your body responds to certain people or environments. Notice where tension shows up when you suppress emotion. Notice what helps you feel grounded again. Not fixing, no judging, just noticing. It can also help to write these things down. That way you can actually see the patterns on paper. I know for myself that if I don't write it down, I won't remember what I ate, what I felt, or what the circumstances were at the time. Awareness is the gateway to choice. And finally, let's talk about self-talk. When anxiety, cravings, or emotional waves arise, instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" try asking, "Which part of me feels unsafe right now?" Is it the gut needing reassurance? Is it the heart needing compassion? Or the brain needing clarity or rest? Respond accordingly. Sometimes healing looks like healthy nourishment. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Your body is not the enemy. It's a conscious witness to all of your experiences. It's been trying to keep you alive, loved, and intact with the tools it had available your whole life. The shift happens when you stop demanding that it behave differently and start listening to what it's been communicating all along. You're not broken. You're becoming aligned, unified, whole. As we close today, I invite you to take a quiet moment and ask your body one simple question. What have you been trying to tell me that I haven't yet learned how to hear? You don't need an immediate answer. Trust that listening itself is part of the healing. Thank you for being here, for being curious, and for being willing to explore healing beyond the mind alone. If this episode resonated, take what serves you, leave what doesn't, and know that your body is always on your side. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, and remember, healing isn't about fixing who you are, it's about coming home to yourself.